Some positive news for Nigeria Thursday as the African Development Bank group announced a fresh loan package of $500 million to support Nigeria's electricity sector, and in particular green energy. On Wednesday, the World Bank had announced a restructuring of a $350 million loan, which Nigeria is currently using to build clean energy supply across 7 public universities across the country. Professor Ken Ife is a public policy analyst, a consultant for the World Bank, and a development economist. He joins us now from our Abuja studios for a conversation on the latest World Bank and AFDB loans for Nigeria's electricity sector. Good evening to you, Professor. Thank you so much for joining us. Good to see you again. So, what do you make of this news?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Well, what do you make of the news from the AFDB and the World Bank regarding Nigeria's electricity funding?
I think it's a good news, really and truly. But let's capture the background to this. We have had 65 years of misery in the power sector. And we could only boast of maximum of 5,000 megawatts for 65 years. And the whole story is not something to write home about. It's misalignments of the 3 subsectors, is funding issues, capacity issues, all kinds of things, instability of the network, constancy. So I think these 2 loans are actually going to kick off a new direction, which it means it wants to look at a transition plan, how they're going to fund transition plan and put this whole history behind us. I like the World Bank. Both of them are coming from different angles, actually. World Bank is coming down, is top down, coming down, looking at the narrow area of solar, and then taking universities as pilots for that, for very good reason. And then the African Development Bank comes to the ground to raise infrastructure that are going to have multiple pathways in our entire gas transition plan. So both of them have their merits, and both of them are steering in the right direction, all music to the ear of the private sector.
Well, Professor, the World Bank loan $350 million for the solar energy for the universities across the country. Is that where that should be directed at, or should that be at communities? What do you make of that aspect of the solar power initiative for campuses?
No, I think first of all, you need to show pilots of how it could work and where it has worked. Targeting the universities are sustainable communities. Don't forget, some universities have 40,000 communities members, some have up to 50, some have 20, 30. So they are sustainable in the sense that, first of all, when we get them off our national grid, that saves energy and that can be diverted to other sources. 2, you build this, 7 of them, you build the solar system, is a mini grid for that size, and then it will support not only the university, but also the ecosystem of the university. And that involves the community, immediate community. It also involves MSMEs of all descriptions. And then also that will help universities begin to act as clusters for some kinds of economic activity, which the power will support. And once you've got power, you've sent the correct signal for all kinds of productive activities in and around the university. And then there are also some critical components of services of the university, like the teaching hospitals. They need power 24/7. And when you begin to have the likes of teaching hospitals properly energized, then people can listen to you when you talk about, this hospital tourism, you should stop. They can listen to you because they know that there are some hospitals that have 24/7 power where equipment will work and they can go there rather than travel abroad for medical treatment. So it all makes sense.
All right, but Professor, how do we scale this across the rest of the country? And I'm talking about financing for solar power, right, and or renewables. You know what's been going on with the grid collapsing, access to power, and so on and so forth. We still don't have that. It's still very expensive for the average Nigerian who wants to get off the grid to get panels and then inverter batteries. It's still very, very expensive, and there's no access to loans to this. So in the long term, how do we make this beyond a World Bank loan? Other countries finance that. Other countries do this. In the UK and so on, they're subsidized. So How do you think this can be scaled appropriately to where everyone outside of these other entities we're talking about can get access to solar power affordably?
No, you see, the university model is you don't want to invest in a model that will not work. Using the university as a model will work because university is a community. People pay school fees and they have that revenue. Then they also have hospitals of that sort that can consume power and generate revenue. And then they have the immediate community that they can serve, which could show how you can have their own mini grids. And so you're actually showing how it could work. And then hotels can copy those. Then some industries, some industrial park, all kinds of entities would see that it has worked, it's generating revenue, and is sustainable. And that is what private sector want to see. They want to see where it has worked. And then, of course, the bigger benefit is that you're actually taking these universities off our national grid so that you are releasing more power to other people that need them. So on both counts, I think it is designed to work. But I'm glad that they are also having challenges because solar power is something that you only have to enter into it to see the element, the size of the challenge. They have geotechnical issues. They have community-based issues. They have, COVID disrupted the thing for some time. So, but they are grappling with all these issues. That's why they asked for extension. And they've been granted extension till 31st of December. It just shows how real it is. And many other issues as well that people can encounter when they're deploying solar. You have rain, where rain diminishes the amount of solar you can have. You have battery-related storage issues. And then you have connectivity issues, connecting to a grid. And I think I'll come back to part of this question later because what we want to do is to show private sector how you can make money from energy and they do the business. And then enable them to do so, which we have done by the recent act.
Okay, so is your preferred approach then a private sector approach? Because as you said, they would want to see a return on investment, and maybe you are looking at clusters for estates or something. So is your preferred approach private sector then?
Absolutely. Absolutely. See, the challenge we have is that we have a very tall order in terms of our energy system here. We have so hierarchical. You look at one single grid running across the whole country. Half of the power is lost. And then you have issues about collapse, systemic collapses of all those. You have the GenCos having issues with settling their bills. They can't settle the bills. They're looking for gas. Gas is not enough. And the one they produce, the highest they have actually got from what they have wheeled out is about 25 to 30%. And then you have discos on the other hand struggling to collect money from people. So the whole thing is a mess. So we have to break away from this. And then, okay, when we come to ADB, I'll probably tell you a bit more because the one of the ADB, they are looking at a target of 250 megawatts in 2050, when our population would have also doubled to about 450 million. So gigawatt, I beg your pardon, 250 gigawatt. Now, can you imagine if you had 65 years to produce 5,000 megawatt, that is 5 gigawatt, then you are going to produce 250 in 25 years. That can only be possible and conceivable when you just kiss goodbye to all these shenanigans we have been having on power and then focus on a new approach, which these two contracts are defining and building the infrastructure going forward for our transition plan.
Okay, perfect. You've set the ground, you've laid the groundwork for us. So let's dive into the AFDB's $500 million loan for electricity sector.
Yeah, that 500 million line is not the answer to all the funding requirements. It's just to kickstart and try to show some models and some pathways because it's dealing with biogas, which is coming from renewable biosources. Then it's also dealing with gas, natural gas being cracked so that you can produce carbon 4, carbon 5, that's low pressure gas, LPG. Then you can also have methane coming out of the biomass. You also have biodiesel, which is all kinds of oil that you can gather together and treat them in a very harsh environment to generate biofuel. And the biofuel here is biodiesel. And then, of course, in that process of producing the biodiesel, you also produce glycerin, and then you produce some other substance that could be used for adhesive purposes. So we have a lot of variety, but the thing is that the oil you use there are usually non-edible oil or waste oil from all kinds of other things. So that is the advantage of that. And then, of course, you have the likes of cassava and sugarcane giving you bioethanol, and then you also have methanol. So all of those are coming from biodegradable sources, and then using some converting equipment. For example, we call them anaerobic digesters, and those anaerobic digesters digest the waste and generate methane. And methane is only one carbon compared to petrol that have 8 or more carbons, compared to LPG that has 4, 5. And then, so methane is actually the best that we can get in those. I mean, don't even bring coal there. So we have a variety of options. Of course, solar, which is another option. So World Bank is coming down from top down with the solar. So there are multiple pathways that this ADB thing is going to help us build this infrastructure and then build the governance, economic governance around this, and then see how you engage private sector in all of this. In the end of the day, the people that deliver this have to be the private sector. And for it to work, you have to show them how to make money from it. And that is why you have, and in fact, Nigerian plan, energy transition plan, has been worked out and negotiated. And that's why we were given to 2050 to use that for our transition. But then there's a funding gap in the whole of that plan. And that's what the ADB is filling in.
Okay, so the part where you just said that we have to show the private sector, well, they want to see how they can make money from this. They essentially would want people to be able to pay for the power that they are providing, which of course now takes us into the matter of cost-reflective tariffs and so on and so forth. So is that a dynamic that can be worked out going forward to where you can get enough of the population to pay the appropriate price for these different options in terms of energy?
Correct. Don't forget there's microgrid, they have mini grid. So the ones with the universities are mini grids because of the size of the project. But there are microgrids. And let me tell you one thing, which probably will be one of your questions. How do you get private sector to make money? That's what we are trying to show them in multiple pathways. The second one is the governance part of it is how do you ensure that when people generate surplus renewable energy and this low carbon energy, that they can actually be enabled to enter into the grid and make it accessible to others. Let me explain. You probably have 3 houses at the minimum. You may have a house in Lagos, you may have in your hometown, and you may have another one somewhere else. But you can only sleep in one of those houses at any one time. And you are capable of putting solar in all your 3 houses. And even in your office, you can also have 4 houses where you can have solar. You can only be in one at any one time. Will the governance structure allow you to generate the power in all the other areas you are not using them and get into a mini grid or micro grid where others can pay for that power? Now, that is where you will get the private sector interested. Because we have been saying to government, and who pays for the meter that will meter the energy, surplus energy, and then make sure that you ever get paid when it goes into the grid. Now, that's governance. So some of these are going to be sorted out. And you begin to sort them out when you allow people to do their things in little, and so that they can, it's not going to be, and then tariff structures would incentivize people to do more, to make money. If we can convince you that in those your 4 places of abode and office, that you can generate money from those solar. So you can borrow money and put solar in all of them, and then you can get incremental income from all of this. It is the governance that will make that happen. It's the architecture and that will make it happen. And that is where private sector is going to excel. People will then have less use of generator because they can generate energy. If you don't have, somebody else has next door. That is where it is going to end up. For us to actually aspire to create that 250 gigawatts.
Fantastic. What are your thoughts on I know we're talking about renewable energy, but going back to our own issues here, the Electricity Act that's been passed that allows the states to be able to, sometime in the future, generate their own energy. Does that provide a pathway for private sector to come in and work with the different states, Lagos, Cross River, and so on and so forth. What are your thoughts there?
No, but that's the way, because initially in 2005, what we had was Dominarization Act, which allows only 1 megawatt. So you can generate anything you want, but you can only localize 1 megawatt, and they expect you to push the rest to the grid. Now they have changed that to eligible buyer and sell. So that one is that now we've now allowed new states to come in, and also the private sector. So obviously, if you are going in with a state, which could be a PPP or whatever, then you'll be looking at mini grids of some sort. But people can also do micro grids, which is allowable in these particular circumstances. So we have to try multiple pathways, different options, with or without federal government, with or without state government, with individuals, with clusters of all sorts, production clusters, industrial estates, in schools and villages, and so all those kind of mix. That's how you will empower, bring energy to the mass market. That is the point. How do you bring energy to the mass market so that everybody and anybody can venture into this, show them how they can make money, and then in the course of making money, show them how you are going to, whatever your effort you produce will be able to be shared with others. That is what the two critical things private sector want to see. Enabling legislation which is in place, a partnership if the state wants to do that, but individuals must be able to be incentivized. Remove all this tax on the solar panels and all of that. Let them generate the power. Make it possible for them with incentive to release some of the excess power they're generating and earn money from that. You're going to see a different transformation. And even that target of 2050 can be achieved in 2040 if you can enable the private sector to get into this. We know how much money how much credit to the private sector. While employers, manufacturers are complaining, the 77% of MAN membership say that power is the critical block that they have. And we know that if private sector invests 10% of the credit to the private sector in power, which they'll be willing to do, they show them how they can make money from that.
Professor Akenife, it's always a pleasure having you come on the show to give us your insights on these critical matters. We thank you so much for your thoughts on energy. Thank you so much.